When you stand before the Great Pyramid of Giza, you're looking at what many consider the greatest engineering achievement human history, but you're also staring at a monument built on a foundation of human bones, and the true death toll from the pyramid construction was so staggering that it nearly destroyed ancient Egypt's entire civilization. For over a century, pharaohs poured the lifeblood of their kingdom into these massive tombs, and the cost wasn't just measured in limestone blocks and gold, but in entire generations of workers who never saw their families again. Tonight, we'll explore the real human cost of pyramid construction, from the quarry slaves who died extracting limestone to the specialized craftsmen whose bodies were found sealed inside the monuments themselves. And by the end, you'll discover the one pyramid that cost so many lives to build that it triggered a revolution that changed Egypt forever. So settle in and prepare to learn why the most magnificent structures on earth came at a price so terrible that even the god-kings of Egypt couldn't bear to pay it twice. For a long time, the dominant story was one of national pride and willing labor. We were told of a united people working together during the Nile's annual flood to honor their divine king. It is a comforting thought, an image of a society in perfect harmony, building a stairway to the heavens for their beloved ruler. The Great Pyramid alone is composed of over 2 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons. Moving even one of these behemoths would be a monumental challenge today. Imagine the effort required to quarry, transport, and lift millions of them using only the simple tools and raw muscle power of the ancient world. This is where the story darkens. To meet such an extraordinary demand for labor, the pharaohs did not rely on volunteers alone. These were the forgotten souls, the human machinery that powered the construction. Workers were crushed by falling stones. They died from exhaustion in the searing desert sun, and they succumbed to malnutrition and disease in the crowded, unsanitary work camps. The pyramids were not just tombs for pharaohs. They became the unmarked graves for thousands of the common people who raised them. The construction of these great monuments was not a fleeting fancy. It was the central obsession of the Egyptian Old Kingdom, a period spanning nearly 500 years. This era, often called the Age of the Pyramids, saw the pharaohs channel the entire wealth and power of their civilization into these colossal building projects. It was a national enterprise on a scale never seen before and rarely seen since. The state's resources, from grain and livestock to timber and copper, were funneled into the quarries and construction sites. This obsession came at a tremendous cost to the rest of society. While the pharaohs focused on their eternal homes, the needs of the living were often neglected. The vast quantities of grain required to feed the pyramid builders meant less food was available for the general population, leading to periods of scarcity and famine. Generations of young men were sent to the quarries and building sites, many never to return to their families or villages. The economic strain was immense. Pyramid building was a black hole for resources. This went on for centuries, a continuous drain on Egypt's human and material wealth. The kingdom was, in effect, slowly bleeding itself dry to build a necropolis of stone giants. Who were the people whose hands shaped these eternal monuments? The workforce was not a single, uniform mass, but a highly stratified society in miniature. At the very top of this hierarchy were the architects and engineers, men of great knowledge and high status. Below them were the skilled craftsmen and artisans. These were the stonemasons, the sculptors, the painters, and the carpenters. They were highly valued for their expertise and often lived in purpose-built villages near the construction sites, like the one discovered at Giza. Their work required years of training and a delicate touch, and their contribution was essential to the beauty and longevity of the pyramids. Further down the ladder were the vast armies of manual laborers. This group was the muscle of the operation and was itself divided. It included a core of permanent year-round workers who formed the backbone of the construction crews. It also included a much larger group of conscripted laborers, mostly farmers, who were called up to work for a period of months. These men were provided with rations of bread, beer, and onions, and while their work was brutally hard, they were part of an organized state-run system. At the very bottom of this pyramid of labor were those with no rights and no hope. These were the slaves, often prisoners captured in military campaigns or criminals sentenced to hard labor. They were assigned the most dangerous and punishing work of all, toiling in the distant quarries under the scorching sun. Their lives were considered cheap, their bodies just another resource to be consumed by the project. It was their sweat and their blood that extracted the raw materials from the earth, the very first and most brutal step in the long journey of a stone from the quarry to the pyramid. The life of a pyramid began far from the fertile banks of the Nile, in the desolate, sun-baked quarries of the Egyptian desert. Places like Tura and Aswan were the sources of the fine white limestone and hard granite that gave the pyramids their enduring strength and beauty. But you know, these places were also landscapes of immense suffering. The work here was relentless, brutal, and incredibly dangerous. For the slaves and convicts sent to these remote outposts, it was often a death sentence. They were tasked with cutting monstrous blocks of stone, weighing many tons, from the living rock using nothing more than simple copper chisels, wooden wedges, and stone pounders. The process was agonizingly slow and physically punishing. Workers would first have to carve deep trenches into the bedrock, outlining the shape of the block. This was done by hand, chipping away at the stone inch by inch under a relentless sun. Once the trenches were deep enough, they would insert wooden wedges into cracks in the stone. They would then soak these wedges with water, causing the wood to expand. With luck, the immense pressure would eventually split the stone, freeing the block from the quarry face. This was a moment of great danger, as the shifting multi-ton block could easily crush anyone standing in the wrong place. Accidents were a daily occurrence. The copper tools would blunt quickly against the hard stone, requiring constant resharpening. The dust from the stone would fill the workers' lungs, leading to silicosis, a deadly respiratory disease. The heat was oppressive, and dehydration and heatstroke were constant threats. With little shade and limited water, many would simply collapse from exhaustion. The overseers, tasked with meeting impossible quotas, showed little mercy. A broken limb or a moment of weakness could mean being left to die, your body simply another piece of debris in the vast, scarred landscape of the quarry. The beautiful smooth limestone that would one day encase a pharaoh's tomb began its journey here, stained with the blood and despair of the men who freed it from the earth. The silent stones carried a heavy history, long before they ever reached the pyramid. Even for the skilled workers, life was far from easy. While they enjoyed a higher status and better living conditions than the quarry slaves, their work was still physically demanding and fraught with its own set of dangers. They worked in open-air workshops on the Giza plateau, their days filled with the rhythmic clang of mallets on chisels and the rasp of sand being used as an abrasive to smooth the stone surfaces. The air was thick with fine stone dust, a constant hazard to their health. These craftsmen were the artists who gave the pyramid its final perfect form. They were responsible for creating the gleaming white limestone casing that made the pyramids shine like jewels in the desert sun. This required incredible precision. They also carved the intricate passageways and chambers deep within the pyramid's core. Working in these cramped, dark and poorly ventilated spaces for hours on end must have been claustrophobic and dangerous. A slip of a tool or a misstep in the dark could have serious consequences. The final stage of construction was perhaps the most perilous of all. As the pyramid neared completion, workers had to place the capstone, or pyramidion, at its very peak, hundreds of feet in the air. Then, they began the process of smoothing the casing stones from the top down, removing the construction ramps as they went. This meant working on steep, smooth surfaces with only rudimentary scaffolding for support. A single moment of carelessness, a gust of wind, or a loose foothold could send a worker plunging to his death. The final, beautiful appearance of the pyramid was achieved at the highest possible risk. While their lives were better than those of the slaves, the craftsmen were still bound to the pharaoh's will. They lived in a state-controlled village, their lives dictated by the rhythm of the project. They worked long hours, 6 days a week, for their entire adult lives. Their bodies bore the marks of their trade-calloused hands, stooped backs, and lungs damaged by years of inhaling stone dust. They were essential cogs in a massive machine, and while they may have taken pride in their skill, they were ultimately just as captive to the pyramid's construction as the laborers who hauled the stones. Their artistry came at the cost of their health and their freedom. For a long time, the stories of these workers were lost to history, buried beneath the sands just as their bodies were. We could only speculate about their lives and their deaths. But in recent decades, archaeology has begun to give a voice to these silent builders. Near the pyramids of Giza, archaeologists discovered a lost city, the village where the permanent workers and craftsmen lived. They found bakeries capable of producing thousands of loaves of bread a day, and barracks that could house thousands of men. This discovery confirmed that a massive, organized workforce was indeed housed and fed on site. More poignantly, they also discovered the workers' cemetery. This was not a grand necropolis, like the one for the pharaohs, but a humble burial ground for the common laborers. Here, archaeologists unearthed the remains of men, women, and even children who were part of the pyramid-building community. The skeletons they found tell a powerful and tragic story. They show evidence of a life of hard physical labor. Vertebrae were compressed and damaged from years of carrying heavy loads. Bones were broken and healed, a testament to the frequent accidents on the construction site. The analysis of these skeletons provides a clear window into the medical realities of the time. Archaeologists found skulls that showed evidence of brain surgery and bones that had been successfully set after fractures. This tells us that there were skilled doctors on site, caring for the valuable workforce. However, they also found that the average age of death was tragically young, most dying in their early 30s. Many skeletons showed signs of arthritis and other degenerative diseases, caused by a lifetime of repetitive, strenuous activity. They were, quite literally, worked to death. These humble graves, located in the shadow of the Great Pyramids, are perhaps the most powerful monument of all. They are a direct physical link to the people who paid the price for the pharaoh's ambition. Unlike the kings, they had no gold, no grand inscriptions, and no hope of a lavish afterlife. Their tombs were simple pits in the sand, their bodies laid to rest with a few clay pots for bread and beer. But their bones cry out across the millennia, telling a story of sacrifice, pain, and resilience. They remind us that the pyramids were not built by gods or magic, but by ordinary human beings who endured extraordinary hardship. Today, as the sun sets over the Giza plateau, the pyramids stand serene and timeless. They have outlasted the civilization that built them, the religion that inspired them, and the very language that was spoken by their creators. They have become symbols of humanity itself, of our ability to dream on a grand scale and to achieve the seemingly impossible. Millions of people travel from around the world to stand in their shadow, to feel that same sense of awe and wonder that has captivated travelers for millennia. They are a priceless part of our shared human heritage, a link to our distant past. But as we gaze upon their beauty, it is important to remember the story told by the silent echoes from the earth. We must remember the quarry slaves, worked to death under a brutal sun. We must remember the laborers, their bodies broken by years of hauling stone. We must remember the craftsmen, their lungs filled with dust as they sought perfection in the dark. The pyramids are not just monuments of stone, they are monuments of human sacrifice. They represent a staggering concentration of a nation's wealth and labor, poured into a tomb for one person, while thousands of others were consumed by the process. This brings us to a quiet, reflective question. Was it worth it? Was the creation of these magnificent structures worth the immense human cost? There is no simple answer. We cannot judge the ancient past by the values of the present. To the ancient Egyptians, building a pyramid was a sacred duty, a way of maintaining cosmic order and ensuring the prosperity of the kingdom. To them, the pharaoh was a god, and his successful journey to the afterlife was essential for everyone. In their worldview, the sacrifice may have seemed not only necessary but noble. Yet, from our vantage point, thousands of years later, the story feels different. We can appreciate the artistry and the engineering genius while also mourning the human tragedy. The pyramids teach us a profound lesson about power, ambition, and the price of glory. They stand as a solemn reminder that the greatest achievements of a civilization can also be the source of its greatest suffering. And so, as we look upon these silent giants, we can hold both feelings at once, a deep sense of wonder at what they represent, and a quiet sorrow for the countless forgotten souls buried in their immense shadow.